Have you ever wondered if the future of AI is, well, eating itself? It sounds like something straight out of science fiction, doesn't it? But it's a very real possibility that some of the smartest people in the field are trying to figure out right now. So today, let's dive into this strange and super fascinating idea called AI model collapse.
I mean, think about it. The internet is just getting flooded with AI-generated content. We've all seen it. And since the next big AI models are going to be trained on data they scrape from, well, that very same internet, it forces us to ask a really important question. What on earth happens when AI starts learning from other AI?
And this is where things get interesting. Researchers call it the curse of recursion. As all this AI-made stuff fills up the internet, the next generation of models are basically going to be learning from their own ancestors. It's like a digital Ouroboros, the snake that eats its own tail. And that has some pretty weird and totally unintended side effects.
What we're doing is creating this massive and maybe even dangerous feedback loop. The AI is both the artist painting the picture and the student studying the painting. And just like any closed-off system, things can start to get weird. It's basically a digital echo chamber, where the AI's own little mistakes and biases just get louder and louder with every single cycle.
Okay, so this whole crazy phenomenon, it actually has a name. And honestly, it sounds just as dramatic as it is. Model collapse. It's this degenerative process that could seriously change the whole game for AI development. So it's something we really need to get our heads around.
So here's the bottom line. When an AI model gets trained on data that's already been, let's say, polluted by another AI, it starts to lose its grip on reality. It literally begins to forget what the original human-made stuff looked like, and its whole understanding of the world starts to get warped. You know, the best way to think about this is the old photocopy of a photocopy trick. You know what I'm talking about, right? You make a copy of a document. Looks fine. Then you copy that copy. Yeah, it's a little fuzzier. You do that a few more times, and pretty soon, all you have left is a blurry, unrecognizable smudge that looks nothing like the original. That's model collapse.
And this diagram here, it shows you that process perfectly. You start with real data, the good stuff, to train Model 0. That model then makes new data, which is used to train Model 1. Model 1 makes data for Model 2. You get the picture. With every single generation, the AI gets one step further away from reality. It's like a game of digital telephone.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, this is all just a cool theory, but nope. Researchers have actually seen this decay happen in real life. Let's take a look at what happens to an image-generating AI when it keeps learning from itself over and over. The results are, well, they're both fascinating and a little bit creepy. All right, so here's our starting point. This is Generation 0. It's been trained purely on real pictures of handwritten numbers. And as you can see, the digits are sharp, they're varied, they're clear. This is what a healthy, happy AI looks like.
Now, let's jump ahead to just the 5th generation. So the model has been retrained 5 times, using what the last model created. Can you see the difference? It's subtle, right? But the digits are getting a little softer, a bit blurrier. Those nice, crisp lines are starting to fade. This is the very first sign that model collapse is kicking in.
And by generation 10? Okay, now the problem is a lot more obvious. The model is losing variety. It's forgetting what researchers call the tails of the distribution. Basically, all the weird, less common ways people write things. You know how you can write a 7 with a line through it, or without one? The AI is starting to forget those little differences, and all the numbers start to just blend together. And then we hit generation 20. And wow, it's just a complete mess. This is full-blown model collapse. The AI has basically forgotten almost everything it knew. Now all it spits out is this repetitive, mushy blob of what it thinks looks like a 0, a 3, or an 8. All that richness, all that diversity from the real world, gone.
And hey, this isn't just for images. It happens with language models too. When researchers tried this with text, by the 9th generation, the AI started spitting out this absolute nonsense. Just an endless, repetitive list of different colored jackrabbits. It completely lost its grip on how to make sense and just got stuck in a bizarre loop.
So we've seen what happens when a model collapses, and it's pretty wild. But the big question is, why? Why does the AI start to forget what reality even looks like? Well, the answer is in these tiny little errors that just build on each other, generation after generation, like a tiny crack in a dam that eventually causes the whole thing to burst.
This right here, this is the engine that drives the whole collapse. With every cycle of learning from itself, the model makes a teeny tiny mistake. It starts to think that common, average things are way more important than they are, and it thinks the rare, unusual things are less important. Over time, those tails of the data, all the weird, unique outlier stuff, they just shrink and shrink until they disappear completely. It's like the model starts listening only to the loudest person in the room and eventually forgets anyone else is even there.
The researchers basically point to two main culprits here. First is what they call statistical error. Because the AI is only learning from a limited amount of data, it just can't see every single weird, rare example out there. It's like trying to learn about every animal on Earth by only visiting a small petting zoo. You're going to miss a few things. The second culprit is functional error. This is when the model itself just isn't a perfect copy of reality. It's like trying to draw a perfect circle with a slightly wobbly pencil. The model makes its own tiny mistakes, and those mistakes get amplified in the next generation.
So when you put all of this together, it actually leads to a really fascinating and maybe unexpected conclusion. It's about the future of AI and the surprising and growing value of just being human.
So what's the big takeaway here? Well, first off, to stay healthy and grounded, AIs are going to need a steady diet of fresh, human-made data. This is super important because all that rare, weird stuff the AI forgets, that's often the stuff that matters for things like fairness and understanding the full picture of humanity. Which means that authentic, real human data is becoming an incredibly valuable resource. And finally, it means we're going to have to get really good at figuring out where our online content actually comes from, separating what's real from what's AI.
And here's maybe the biggest bombshell from the research. The paper talks about a first-mover advantage. Basically, the big companies that trained their massive AI models on the internet of the past, the clean, mostly human-generated internet, they might have a permanent, unbeatable lead. They captured a snapshot of reality that might be impossible to ever get again in our new synthetic world. And that leaves us with one final and kind of mind-bending question. As our digital world becomes that photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy, how will we ever really be able to prove what's real anymore? And more importantly, what does it mean for us when the very machines we built to understand the world start to forget it?